Hi, this is Riley. I have some tips for you now as we're talking about in this pandemic. What can you do? We talked about this being the Super Bowl for leadership, but what do you do for yourself that can help this? So first going to talk about you being the emotional thermostat for the team. How you are, so is the team. So that's really important. If you are hot, irritated, upset, they're going to be that way. They look to you for that balancing. That's the charge we talked about in the last video. And emotions are contagious. So you being the emotional thermostat, how do you want to set the temperature for people, especially in what's going on now, the high anxiety, high emotions? You know, with this emotional intelligence, being smart about your emotions, part of it starts with self-awareness. So these first couple things are for you. Are you aware of what's going on for you? Emotions are the sensations in the body, and then it goes to your head to try to figure it out. And when you figure it out, that's label it. You have to name it to tame it. But when you label it, that is what now we are calling a feeling. So differentiating between emotions and feeling. When you actually give it a name, which we encourage you to do, I mean, that may not always be right, but to spend and assess, what is it? What name would I give it? Is it anxiety? Is it fear? Is it apprehension? Maybe a combination. And then whatever it is, you need to accept it. So this is for you to accept it, there's no right or wrong, but that helps versus pushing it away. And then the third piece of this, anxiety is about a future threat. And so is the coronavirus going to hit someone in my family? Am I going to lose someone? What about paying my bills? All this is anxieties. And part of that is to identify that, but then to go a little further and cognitively, using this part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, say, all right, well, if that did happen, first, is that true? We have a tendency to exaggerate. We have a tendency to kind of catastrophize. We want to bring it down, get it grounded. What's the evidence? What's the fact? So is it true? How do we know it's true? If it is true, because some of this is actually out there with all the data we're seeing, what's your plan? And what's your first steps in your plan? When you can have something that's tangible, it's going to help. Making a plan is going to help manage some of the anxiety, some of the worry. Last part we'll talk about is if you find yourself ruminating about this, worrying over and over, which we all will do. Neuroscientists are telling us that just 5 to 10 minutes of ruminating, worrying, building up, kind of getting yourself worked up and others can start to destroy your memory and your emotional self-control. So you don't want to lose it at work, or you don't want to lose it with your family because you have a short temper, because this rumination has eaten away at your impulse control. So you want to change your self-talk from the what ifs. Well, what could I do differently? What will be my plan? What's my first step? How do we do this? Changing your focus. The way you change your brain is with better attention and focus. So those are the tips for now. I'll come back and share some more with you. But thank you. We'll talk to you again.